Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub, here today, of course, with our friend Pastor Jim from Bergstrasse. How are you there, friend?
Good morning.
Good morning. It's awesome, man. The snow is so deep. It's fantastic.
And a reminder, we're taping on Tuesday. You're
Right.
seeing this on Thursday.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I saw that it might actually rain on Friday or Saturday. I don't it's gonna be
Really?
a sloppy mess. I don't know. I don't know if we can handle more snow, but it's beautiful outside.
Well,
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
so before I contacted you, Kelly, and checked in, I heard that Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow.
Now, I never remember what that means. Does that mean winter or no winter? I never remember.
They say winter, but according to the calendar, we got 6 more weeks of winter.
Well,
And by the way, how did Phil get out of his burrow this morning? I mean,
well, I actually don't think it's Phil. I thought it was a female groundhog and her name was Molly. I don't know, something like that. And I guess Phil doesn't really, or whichever one, doesn't really live there in the burrow. Apparently, they bring him or her out from some enclosure. I don't know.
she or he is kept in a closet, and they just bring her out on February 2nd and say, "See."
If the sun is or is not at a specific time, I don't know. So if you like winter, congratulations, it may or may not continue. If you don't like winter, congratulations, it may or may not continue. That's just how I see it.
And someday we'll talk about how Groundhog's Day is an ancient Christian tradition. But that's another conversation. That's another day.
That's another day. And I also think that groundhogs are adorable, but that's also a whole other conversation as well. I know, because most people don't, and I do. I think they're very cute. Okay, we will also save that. So last week, we asked you, our excited viewers, the 6 or 7 of you who are out there, we asked you to talk to us about some topics that we should talk about. And well, Jim, do you want to talk about how this person came to you and what their ask was for us?
Sure. So one of our viewers reached out to me who knows me, sent me an email and shared an experience that they had. And they said, maybe this is something that you and Kelly could talk to us about, and what can we do? And this particular person had witnessed a person who was trying to get a vaccine, one of the COVID vaccines. But however, this person was unable to get it because they did not have an appointment.
And the only way you could take an appointment was online.
To go online, and that's what this person said. Well, I don't have internet access. I don't know what to do. So this person left very frustrated, angry, in tears, the whole bit. And the person who reached out to me was kind enough, and she was actually being a shepherd type person, and just took this person alongside of them and just sat with them for a little bit and tried to give them comfort and ease and whatever. And it just brought to mind for us, I think, for Kelly and I, to realize that I think there's a need for us to stand up for people that we know that, or that we see that need to be advocated for, that need to need that helping hand, and to be able to provide resources for them.
Yeah. So we want to talk about the vaccine. We want to talk about how you can get it in Pennsylvania. We also wanted to talk about what herd immunity is, because we've been hearing a lot about that on the news, or sometimes there is, and we wanted to talk about what that means. And we also wanted to talk about racial groups who have been marginalized by the US health system in the past, and why those groups have tended to not want to get the vaccine. And then, talk about also why there are why you can get a vaccine at a pharmacy and why it's difficult to get a vaccine at a health system. So there's been a lot of conversation about that. So we wanted to sort of do all those things. So I'm a historian first, so we got to start with the history.
And we need to, I think we also need to give a disclaimer that we are certainly not going to cover everything in detail.
Yeah.
But this is a lot. So,
Yeah.
know, we're certainly not, we're
Yeah,
not in
this
the know
is
of
not
everything
meant to
else.
be an exhaustive examination of
Yeah.
all of those topics. If that was the case, well, then we would be professors somewhere. This is
Exactly.
just a look to sort of give everybody a good overview of all of those sort of bits.
And hopefully it might encourage you to do your part.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. So
Change the system.
So let's talk about herd immunity first. So this is the concept that in order for us all to benefit from the vaccine, a large number of us have to be immunized,
right,
so that the virus diminishes and then dies.
Right, is harder to spread because we've been vaccinated against the virus attacking our systems, our bodily systems. So the herd immunity means that we need to build up our defenses.
Right, and your body does that on its own, but it does it on its own, but it also needs the vaccine to help support that.
Help.
Yeah,
it needs help. Right.
So, and we did that with all of the vaccines we've ever had, with smallpox, with polio, with measles, with mumps. And okay, I also want to do a huge disclaimer. We're not having a conversation about people who choose to not vaccinate. That's not what this conversation about. And we're also not going to fight about that. That's not something we're going to fight about. We're not going to have that conversation. Science has shown us in this country and around parts of the world that vaccinations work, they work effectively, and when enough people get them, that disease can go away.
Can be eradicated. Eradicated is the goal.
Right.
It may never happen that way.
Right. And in some countries, because not enough people have gotten vaccinated over time, that's why there is still polio in some parts of the world. We don't have polio. Well, we don't have polio like we had polio in the 1940s because so many of us got vaccines after that, and measles and mumps and diphtheria and all those kinds of things. So, however, U.S. history has not been kind to those people who are different, who are not white. And Black people have been tested upon. We know that from the syphilis experiments that happened through 1972, when Black men were given syphilis, and because the U.S. government wanted to see what syphilis did to people, and they thought that was okay to inject that sexually transmitted disease into people and then sort of see what happens next. Henrietta Lacks, the woman whose cells were taken without her consent and used in a myriad of things, including the COVID-19 vaccine, and not had compensation paid to her and her descendants. We know that Black women, especially when they're pregnant, are not treated very well by OBGYNs and other healthcare professionals, and therefore Black women have a higher percentage of bad outcomes during their pregnancy. And it's not just in the Black community. I mean, things we did to Native Americans, forced sterilization.
Anybody who's non-white.
Right, and
the system has been set up to use them as test species, and it's not.
Right. And that is, let's just call it what it is. That is systemic racism in healthcare. It is.
Yep.
And we're not making any excuses for it. It happened in the Latino community. It happened, I mean, it's happened in all communities of people who were marginalized. And also, let's just be clear, it's also, those people were poor and didn't have a voice for someone to stand up for them. So
nobody stood up for them. Nobody
yeah.
stood up for them. And it was because it was so much easier for the majority white to just kind of, push down and push aside than to say, come and help and let's be a part of this together.
Right.
But because the majority white was just so like privileged, created a system of privilege and want, and yes, we hurt one another. We hurt other humans.
Of that, there are people in those communities who have said, why should I get this vaccine? Historically, the white privileged government has done this and this and this and this and this to us. So what's to say that, and then, our health system says, but this one's important. That's what we said about all the rest of them. And then we did terrible things to people. So
and then you hurt me.
Right. And it's incredibly understandable to say, oh, that's why the Latino population, the Native American population, the Black population is saying, I don't know if I want to do this. But
I want to do this.
Right. Because you hurt me.
Why should I trust you now?
Right. And if we look at the demographics of the United States, if 60% of the United States is considered white, and 75%-ish is what is needed by science to create herd immunity, then there's going to have to be a large part of a disenfranchised population to say, I'm going to step up and do this. So there's that. And so that's become a huge problem. And then there's the whole problem with this organization called QAnon, who is spreading these wild conspiracy theories that if you read about them in a book, you would think they were absurd in a book. That the material in the vaccine will alter your DNA and that you will not be human. That there is a microchip implanted in the vaccine so that when you get it, now the federal government will be able to monitor you. First, okay, when I heard that one, I thought, A, you're not that important. Why does the federal government want to monitor any of you? That's just, okay. And then the one that I heard the other day, that QAnon is now discussing to its people, whatever that means, that the reason why the California wildfires started this past time was because of Jewish-controlled lasers. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second, because I don't even have words to describe the ludicrousness of that as a statement. This does a disservice to people who are trying, to everybody who's trying to make things better.
I mean, all of this stuff, and I've been troubled by it also, because I've heard pretty much all of the same stuff that you talked about. But I think what happens, this is my opinion. These are my thoughts. I think what is happening in our world right now is that we've lost this sense of an accompaniment with one another and trying to live the best lives possible. And we've been taught, or we've been conditioned, that the only way to do that is to push somebody aside so
Right.
that I can get on top. And we've done that in some very intentional ways, as well as some unintentional ways, but we forget about it. And quite frankly, I think when there is all kinds of questioning about who do I believe and what do I believe, the loudest voice often becomes a voice of fear.
Mhm.
Because people will grab onto fear so quickly because I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to follow that. And what happens then is it's difficult to see reality.
Right. And people tend to believe the first
Thing you hear.
explanation they hear. Right. And if what they hear is a lavish conspiracy theory, they may believe that because it's the first thing that they heard, and for them it allays their fears.
Yeah.
And that's difficult in a lot of ways. So because of all of this stuff, there are a lot of people who don't want to get a vaccine. And so those of us who have voices in the community want to say, hey, we get it. But there are other outlets that you can go to have a conversation about what this means. And that you can talk about what the science is, and you can read about what the science is. And that choosing to believe some of those other things, these other conspiracy theories, doesn't advance us as a society at all. It just makes it worse.
So I'm reminded of a piece in scripture. I think it was Deuteronomy, but as I think about it, it might have been in the book of Joshua. I'm not sure, because it deals with Joshua, who has been appointed the leader. And he basically says, I'm going to choose. I have a choice. I can choose life or I can choose death in the way that I lead and the way that I instruct my people that I'm responsible for. And he very, very adamantly stands up and says, I will choose life. I will choose to give life wherever I can. And I think that's one of the things that with this kind of stuff, we need to figure out, we need to understand facts.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand facts from professionals whom we can trust, i.e. scientists and researchers, and, just to name two that come to mind, that what they can offer to us is all about life. And I think that's one of the things that even scripture talks about life. It doesn't talk about death. It talks about life. How do we live? How do we live in community? How do we advocate for one another? It's not just advocating for me so that I can bash you. No, it's me so that I can help you who is struggling with whatever is happening in life, so that I might give you life.
Right.
And that's the key with it, I think.
Right. And so in that vein, that's the history part of this. That's the part that leads us to our advocacy for all of you guys. And that's, where do we go now? And so I wanted to share with you the website that the state has to show you where to get a vaccine. And while I'm putting that up, I also want to talk about the whole concept of pharmacy versus health system. So let me share my screen, and then we'll sort of talk about what that means when you see it. All right. Come on, friend. There you are.
So the part of this is that, for our viewers, we want you to see this so that this is a way to educate yourself too, and you can follow up on your own so that you might be able to go out and to help others.
Absolutely.
You might have a neighbor who needs help. I mean, it's a way of standing up for one another and advocating for someone else.
So this is the state website put out by the Department of Health, and it's all about the vaccine. So I just wanted to show you what it is. First of all, at the top, it'll tell you what phase we're in. We're currently in phase 1A, and it talks about what each phase means, so that you can certainly look that up and you can say, okay, so I fit in this category, I don't fit in this category, and all of that kind of stuff. And then if you scroll down a little bit farther, it gives you, there's a whole list here about all the things that you can learn about. You can learn about frequently asked questions for the vaccine, data so that you can read some stuff, the plan that's in Pennsylvania, when are you eligible, and where can you get it? Okay, so first of all, let's also be very clear. The reason why the vaccine has been so sort of stumble over your feet kind of a plan is not just in Pennsylvania. It's all over the country. And let's be very clear about why. There was, in the previous administration, there was no clearly defined plan set forth by the federal government to make that easier for the states. There wasn't. That's not my opinion. That's not anybody's opinion. That's a fact. Because that plan, there was no clearly defined plan, that has made things difficult. That has made states who are normally not in charge of that kind of stuff do something that they're not necessarily in their wheelhouse to invent. So it's been a challenge. Currently, we're trying to make that better. We'll see, because we're in the middle of that. So we're just putting that out straight. Okay, so now let's look at this map, because this is where I can get vaccinated. So this is just tells you the stuff. And these are all, sorry about that. I didn't mean to get so. All of these blue dots are on Pennsylvania. So just to make this easier, I'm going to put in a zip code and I'm going to put in Ephrata because it's easier. So what it does is it zooms in and it shows you all the places. Now, there are blue dots all around us. And so here we go. There's one in Denver. So this is Anderson's Pharmacy. It gives you a website to the pharmacy and it gives you a phone number. Okay, so you're probably wondering to yourself, all right, Anderson Pharmacy. So here's Ephrata. Let's see what we've got in Ephrata proper. Weiss Pharmacy at the grocery store. This gives you a website where you're going to have to log in order to be able and do that online. No phone number. Okay, difficult. This is the hospital, WellSpan Ephrata Hospital. Fantastic. I can tell you right now, if you call that line, you will be on hold. Well, actually, there's a message that tells you that they're not taking any further appointments because they no longer have any more vaccine on its way. It may change. Let's click on one of these other ones. The Lake Street facility for WellSpan Family Medicine. Fine. Let's look around town and see where we can get something else. New Holland. Stauffer's Pharmacy. Okay. There's another WellSpan facility in Rothsville. If you're in Lidditz, there's a occupational specialist. I went onto their website yesterday. I actually went on to all of the area websites yesterday. Every single one of these says that they are out of vaccine right now. Okay, so you're asking yourself, why can I go to Weiss's and get a vaccine and I can't go to a health system? And that is easily explainable in a couple of words. Those two words are called buying power. So CVS, Walgreens, all of those kinds of places have a lot more buying power because they're in more than just one place than a health system. So you all know that my father and my family live in Cleveland, and my father is very upset that Cleveland Clinic, a world-renowned hospital, has no vaccines. But he can go to Walgreens, he is, next week and getting his vaccine at Walgreens. He said, how could a world-renowned health center not have clout over a pharmacy? And I said, because you forgot about economics, Dad. Because there was no, pardon me, federal system, economics won over. The buying power went to the people who had the most money. Those pharmacies and those, even though those are grocery store pharmacies in some of those, have more buying power than a hospital system. They just do, which is why they have them.
A large part of a larger system, of a larger organization. Yeah.
Right. There are Walgreens at least all over the East Coast into the Midwest. There are not Cleveland Clinics anywhere but Ohio.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your prestige is. It matters if you have cash to buy stuff. So, and I didn't click on every blue dot across Lancaster County, but I clicked on most of them. And I went down to Gap, and this is another Weiss Pharmacy in Gap. And it's currently not accepting right now because they don't have any vaccine left. So I'm encouraging, and both Jim and I here, and I will stop sharing my screen so that you can see that. But that shows you what all those things are right there. We are both encouraging all of our viewers to help people who don't have internet. Because if the only way you can do it, make an appointment, is to do it online, and people who don't have internet, what are they going to do? There is no, and I think this is one of those other things. I think we all thought we were going to get a gold envelope in the mail, like Willy Wonka or like Harry Potter or something that was like beautiful and had gold lettering, and it said, "Congratulations, you are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. Please report to blah, blah, blah at blah, blah, blah. Sign, love with a heart, people who have a vaccine," I guess. No.
Honestly, I was hoping what would have happened when I was a kid.
Well, right. I mean, I think that, like
I forget about polio, smallpox, but
right.
I remember Sunday afternoon going to the local high school and
right.
pop a sugar cube. So
my mom is upset that she hasn't gotten this like invitation. And I said to her, "Mom, under normal circumstances, that probably would have happened, or some version of that. But now this is dog eat dog. If you are not advocating for yourself and going on to 10 different websites to try to find something, you're not going to get vaccinated for a while." I said, "I don't like it like that either. But right now, this is the system that we have to deal with."
I don't think anybody does. And again, because there isn't anything clear like that, it still raises that fear and that anxiety again, because it's like, what am I going to do? Right. I want a vaccine. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And we need to advocate. And I want to remind our folks, Kelly, also that we're asking you, our viewers, to advocate for your neighbors who don't have internet service, because they have no idea that this conversation is even going on.
Right. Right. Right.
You do. You do.
Right. And we are absolutely willing to help. Right. We want to be able to help those people as well. But we are asking you to also be on that team of helping people. Please, if you have people in your realm that need help with this and want a phone call from someone to be able to walk them through this, please send us a message, leave that person's phone number. We will, both of us are happy to do that. But we need you to do that as well. There are too many of us out there who need help. Yeah.
We are advocates for a greater number of people.
Yeah.
But that greater number of people is you, because we need other people, because we can't do it all.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know where all of those little pockets of people live and reside and work that don't have that access.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And this is about, helping us to care for our neighbor, to stand up for one another, and to work with them, not against them.
So I want to close with this. A very wise person said to me recently that if you don't treat a serious topic seriously, that it will never be taken seriously. And this is too important to be frivolous about. So please, we are absolutely asking you to learn, to read, to be smart about your science, to ask for help instead of just making assumptions about things, and for letting the people who have done this their whole lives, who have been scientists and researchers and immunologists and doctors, to let them be the experts on this. Thank you, everybody.
Wise words. Thank you.
See you next week.